Good evening. Thank you for being here, everyone. It is Thursday, September 26, 2024. It is now 6:31 p.m. here at the Castle Valley Community Center. This meeting will be a hybrid meeting held electronically by Zoom and also in person at our town building anchor site. So I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:31. I will entertain a motion for adoption of the agenda. And it has been published.
I would make a motion to accept the agenda as published.
Jamie,
I will second.
and second Dorothy. Vote. Jamie,
Aye.
Dorothy,
Aye.
Marie,
Aye.
Ryan, aye. The agenda has been adopted. Bailey, could you call the roll, please?
All right. Present in the building is Chair Ryan Anderson, Co-Chair George Honer, PLUC member JD Tuft, and joining us by Zoom is PLUC member Marie Hawkins. And then in the building are Jasmine Duncan, Mayor, and introduce
Norman and Peggy Llewellyn.
Norman Peggy Llewellyn, and Charlene Radley, is it? Yeah, and Charlene Radley is attending by Zoom.
Thank you all for being here. So I'd like to call your attention and I thank Bailene for putting this on the first page, or the second page actually. These are the comments that we've had turned in so far, public comments for the Planning and Land Use Commission workshop meeting to be considered. So I'd like you to look those over if you did not have the time to look them over. They were sent out electronically. They may help inform us as we move forward. There's gonna be a meeting. Any questions, comments? Anyone for? As we go through this tonight, keep these in mind as where they might be fit in. So if there are no further comments on that, let's move to the general plan survey. And I'd like to call your attention to where we have been. And Bailene has put the comments that were made and the changes that were made in our last meeting in shaded areas, shaded gray. So if you just those over, if you have not already. They begin with B7. The comment there, the first one was to generate new question for this section on aquifer protection. So that's something that we should be considering, right? And also that we would move to another section, possibly agriculture. Currently no section for agriculture, so we would need to make that a new section. Right?
Well, kind of the livestock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Agriculture.
Yeah, it was. In our last survey, there was a primary focus on livestock as part of the current agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
But our conversation at our last meeting was that we might make it more general about agriculture rather than so specific to livestock only.
Mhm.
And considering that we do have a number of residents who are using that agriculture as developing their properties and using their properties that way, we could get some input from those people who are doing a really good job. There are probably half a dozen more. We're doing a really good job with the agriculture and to incorporate their ideas in that section may be useful. And I would hope that Jeff, and we talked a little bit, Jeff and I, that he might be able to help take the lead on that, because it was one of his primary focuses.
As far as aquifer protection, I would kind of argue it makes the most sense under water and septic. The agriculture section of that is kind of secondary.
That makes sense.
And these, like the actual question itself might fall better underneath livestock. But if we expand aquifer protection questions and add more of those, then it may be worthwhile to leave those under water and septic, because the aquifer is our main source of water.
So are you suggesting that we keep it as aquifer protection and then include water and septic under that?
No, I would leave it as water and septic. Just have aquifer protection as kind of a subsection underneath. It would fall under water source technically.
Okay,
And especially if we expand upon that question or other aquifer protection questions, then I think it makes more sense to do it there.
Bailey?
I recollect that in the last general plan, or when the livestock issue was up, I don't remember if that's the last one or the one before, but we came up with a different definition for agriculture, which is in our ordinance, to be able to separate the issues of agriculture and livestock. So you could always change the name of that section, and we could also look and
Change it
see
to-
what the definitions are.
Well, as far as I see it, the livestock section has no subsections underneath it. So it could be changed to agriculture, and then you have a livestock subsection and a agriculture subsection.
Thank you. Any other considerations or amendment?
Livestock. Slash agriculture,
Could do that.
I mean, they. And then go together.
I'm trying to think of a better defining term for growing stuff rather than
Okay,
plant life. I mean, agriculture is pretty much it, but
Well, as Fabian suggested, that definition of agriculture that's in the general plan may be useful.
Okay.
Right. So in that comment under livestock, it says that Corey Shirtliff and Jeff Whitney et al. Will rewrite the questions.
okay.
Using the matrix scale, manual units in the ordinance, right?
Okay.
So any further comments to the changes possible in that section? We'll look at the definition of agriculture in the general plan. And I'd be happy to work on that and developing that section along with Jeff and Corey. Let's move down to section D. The changes there in D1A. The change was, if yes, please identify specific mechanisms that might be considered. Circle all apply that if the complaint driven, town can initiate or hire a code enforcement officer. The comment was use a scaled response, and that is the suggested scaled response, right?
What does that mean?
Um. My interpretation of it was, or I should say, I think the discussion was kind of around. Instead of just having those as the three options, for each of those have kind of. A scaled gradient, so like strongly against, strongly in favor for each of them.
Thank you.
So maybe you get a clear picture. At least that's what I'm inferring on.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna suggest that a scaled response could also be something like you have a complaint driven first and then. You know, as if you have more complaints, then it goes to a higher level, so that I could have, I guess, two interpretations, one of. On the actual survey, or it could be an answer on survey too, as a standalone answer.
I was just thinking on scale. Priorities, like if it's something that really has to do with health, safety and welfare, that would put it more of a priority than just a irritation or something.
Yeah. It may be worthwhile to. Split it up, so you could have, well,
Some things are more serious than others.
yeah, but on the same token, the complaint driven in the town can initiate makes sense for that. But hiring a code enforcement officer is kind of all or nothing. I mean, we might even think about adding an option where we just come up with an agreement with Grand County where for a week or so out of every month, they lend us a code enforcement officer to go through the issues unless it's a more pressing matter, and then we could potentially ask. I mean, I don't know how that would work, but we could kind of let the question give us a better idea of what people want.
Thank you. Mary, would you like to weigh in on this?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
You just don't wanna be the bad guy.
So,
Well, I mean, I think if you're gonna ask people questions, make sure you just do some research on what's possible before we ask them what they want. Too, like, you gotta throw it out there, all these things you might want that we really can't do.
Yeah.
Like, grab somebody from Grand County code enforcement, they're like, no.
Agreed. But I mean,
But ask the person. It's an option to choose,
Yeah.
certainly.
well, I'm just kind of providing it as an example, because the other two you can really do whatever you want with, but the hiring a code enforcement officer is essentially all or nothing.
yeah.
We either have one or we don't, and then there's the whole budgetary tax concern with it.
And it costs. Thank you for those who have provided these suggestions. Marie, do you have any suggestions on this?
Not on this, no.
Is there one of you who would like to take this on?
I can ask about the code enforcement officer if that's an option, or at least borrowing one. Other than that, what else would we need to research with this question?
Well, it could, as Peggy mentioned, we could do it as a standalone, or as Jamie suggested, grading it from health and safety and welfare scale.
Yeah. You may also want to do it as both.
We could look at a combination. So you're saying,
That's, there's an inquiry that was here, sure,
yeah,
see how they do.
I will check with Rory.
Sorry, John got home and I texted him, but I haven't heard back.
Yeah, he said that he would be interested in being there and contributing. I got a message from him this afternoon. Okay, if there's no more, let's move on to section E. Look at the shaded areas there. D4, would you support strengthening the town's lighting ordinance to ensure Castle Valley maintains its dark skies? The comment consulted Jocelyn. I'm sorry, my eyes are not.
Well, it's tiny, it's hard to read.
Here, 1 second.
He did not feel any changes were needed to the ordinance.
I consulted her. Yeah. So I'm the one who consulted her because that, you know, came up and I worked on it with her, so. You know, and we feel like, you know, that the ordinance is pretty strong, is what it needs to be right now
I mean,
to maintain a certification.
Change.
Yeah.
that we made.
Yeah.
He doesn't need.
Mhm.
Great.
I would almost vote to just remove D4.
Well, and we did remove D5.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't think anything else is referring to, no.
So for those of you who work on the dark sky ordinance, was there any further consideration to possible mitigation of ambient light pollution coming from homes or Wisconsin outside lights or that type of thing?
Well, there's some people who feel that, they're annoyed by just ambient light coming through a window,
Right.
but. My opinion that, I mean, for certification for dark skies, you want to avoid releasing light up into the night sky. And I mean, it's true, if you're out stargazing and a car comes by and you look at their headlights, you're going to lose your night vision for a little while. And so maybe, you know, ambient light coming through windows, as long as there's, you know, everybody kind of agrees, as long as there's not, say, some big bright chandelier that's right in the window that is going to blind you when you look at it. And that is actually, there's something about that in the ordinance already.
Okay.
But there are some people who feel like, oh, maybe everybody should get shades,
So,
but we did not put that in. the ordinance.
George, do you think we should eliminate D4? Since it doesn't need strengthened?
I mean. We could leave it in if there's people who would want it strengthened, we got our certification, I'm just kind of thinking that a lot of this is. Because now we have the dark sky ordinance, or is it just the lighting ordinance that we have?
Well, it serves.
It replaced what we call the lighting ordinance, and I
Okay.
think the name was changed, the dark sky ordinance.
I don't know what state the original lighting ordinance was in. But I can imagine it would have been lower for dark sky.
Yeah.
So I imagine we're much more stringent now. So, for me, it's 50-50, which way you go. I mean, you could just leave it in if we don't really worry about the space or anything like that.
Mhm.
And for some people, it is one of the reasons that they live up here. So.
Was one of
Well,
them.
we already had a strong lighting ordinance, and the primary change to get the certification was. In looking at. You know, the actual amount of light submitted. I forget what the term for that is, but. You know, so that we were, you know. We did put some limits on the amount that each property can have. You know, but the lumens, you know, we did put a limit on lumens for each light fixture, which we didn't have in the first one.
If we do leave it, I would argue for some kind of wording change. I'm not sure exactly what I would use, but the maintains and strengthening of the lighting ordinance to maintain something kind of seems oxymoronic to me. Because if you're maintaining it, you don't need to strengthen it.
Maybe maintain is dark sky designation.
Yeah.
Which it already does.
Which it already
Yeah.
does.
Valley maintains, to ensure Council Valley maintains its dark skies.
Which is what the ordinance is written to do now.
Yeah.
It's the other like annoying window lighting, coming out the window light that people.
I'm just wondering if maybe people, when they look at this, may or may not be aware that there is a designation. That was
Right.
my reason for suggesting that one word on there.
The possible wording that just kind of came to mind is something that does give some detail that we are a dark sky community. There are pretty stringent regulations on it. And then just get rid of the maintains and subsequent stuff. So just have it read, would you support strengthening the town's lighting ordinances? Yeah, and probably just leave it there.
So do we still call it lighting ordinance?
I am not. No, it's the dark.
No, I think it is called the dark sky.
Yeah,
It's, I
dark
think,
sky.
dark sky
Yeah.
in the. Changed it, and it says this replaces the other lighting ordinance. That's what it says on the ordinance.
Does this read correctly?
Well, this question was asked before.
Okay,
This was asked 5 years ago, and people said yes, and they wanted us to pursue the designation of a dark skies community, so we did that. So, so yeah, this question at all is talking about the old ordinance. And I don't think, would you support strengthening the current new ordinance? I don't think it, with Jocelyn, agreed, or she, when you said it, she doesn't think it needs to be strengthened because it already ensures our certification. Now, are people happy with it, or are they?
was it appropriate to have this question in here again? In the survey?
Well, I would say Jocelyn did not think it was necessary.
I thought it was gonna be taken out.
I'm hearing a few who are saying we ought to just take it out.
The thing that the town has to do now, and the town isn't totally responsible for it, there can be the people who do it. We're supposed to have, some educational events or keep people aware of the importance of dark skies. But I don't know how you would, put that into a question because it's only the responsibility kind of people who want to help do that. We've had a few night sky events, or like Don Montoya came down and did a presentation about, Native American astronomy. So we have to do 1 or 2 events. To maintain
Ask people. if
our
they can
certification.
Then you ask people if they can contribute to a dark sky.
I mean, we might also want to ask if people are even aware we're a dark sky community.
What am I thinking?
That would almost be more useful information. Or if you leave this in, include something that says, are you aware that we are a dark sky community? We may even want to, if we go down that route, we may want to have a question that's also, are you having issues with neighbors' lights, or are they obtrusive or something to that? But.
Isn't there a sign at the entrance?
Yeah. Not everybody looks at the signs though.
Well, I mean, it doesn't get more blatant than a sign.
Sure. We could do flashing lights.
Let's put up a neon sign that says.
We are a dark sky community.
With big floodlights on the slides, you'll see it.
I mean, there is a question about adherence to, is everybody in compliance? I mean, that. And the majority of the valley was already in compliance to what we have, so. I mean, that's maybe the only loose end out there.
But to what Jasmine from,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Peggy?
but to what Jasmine was saying is that, part of that dark sky compliance is including these programs. And, I think that's a good question about, are you aware that as part of our dark sky compliance, we're required to do nights, dark sky programs, and are you willing to contribute Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a little different, I mean, because a lot of people like to complain, but not a lot of people like to volunteer. You know, and,
Well, and they don't, maybe they don't know what they,
yeah, that in order to get dark sky, you have to do these programs, and are you willing to be part of that? You know, because that's something that, you know.
Question,
Please,
kind of. Right on from this, measure. Does the dark sky designation actually get rid of the, need for ordinances? Or should there be both? You should have lighting ordinances in your rules and regulations, and it shouldn't have anything to do with the dark sky designation.
Well, the
But you
ordinance,
don't have to, you have to have both.
that is. part of it.
Yeah.
the ordinance is part of it. Yeah.
you're required to have an ordinance to get the dark sky designation.
Yeah, I was just getting that indication that the dark sky was superseding their ordinance. What I get is listening to this and reading
No.
the question.
No, and you're correct, the ordinance is the most important part of that.
yes. It is, thank you. So I see that we could be working on developing a question of the awareness of our dark sky designation. And then a willingness to be part of what it means to be compliant with that designation, possibly a two-part question.
Would you repeat that,
Yeah,
the second part?
first off, the awareness of our dark sky designation. To establish, you know, whether there is or is not, or what the status is of that awareness. And then second part would be a willingness to be a part of compliance, what it means to be compliant to that designation. To participate in that.
Mhm.
To participate in the programs.
Yeah.
That are required to comply with.
Mhm.
Did you get that, Haley?
Yeah, I did, but I just think if people don't know what compliance is, how can you answer that question?
You could say such as,
Yeah.
night programs.
Give them a sampler.
Are we thinking about doing an information sheet with this? Or would information that we want to provide be in the questions?
That's a good question, in that that was one of the questions that we faced when we designed the last survey. And you'll see that coming up in a couple of the questions, where there was a short educational piece. Before.
Yeah.
The questions. And that may be in order with this as well. Right?
Yeah,
Is that what
otherwise
you're
it gets to
suggesting?
be too much.
Not too much.
I mean, if you include an extra sheet with all this stuff.
Oh, no.
It gets to be too much.
Yeah. Just a phrase it. Like a precise summary. Of where we are. Okay, we are a dark sky community. The,
Yeah.
the town website, what that means. That type of-
Mhm.
Right,
But if we mail them out too, I mean, we have to consider the weight of the envelope and then postage that it requires. If we're doing it online. You know, I'm not sure that everybody would go to the information sheet, so
right.
maybe you shouldn't ask questions that. Aren't going to be clear.
Okay. So do we have enough to work with? To develop that question? Is there one of you who would like to take that on?
I'm just kind of scribbling here. Our dark sky designation, which replaced our lighting ordinance, requires us to have informative learning presentations. Would you be interested in doing a presentation.
Participating in
Hmm?
or participating in a,
Oh, okay, be interested in participating.
Mhm.
So
thank you, Jane.
I do like that idea. I'm just wondering. Especially if we include some of the stuff in the comments, one of them is relatively few people in the town volunteer for town government, fire department, et cetera. I'm wondering if we could have. A blurb somewhere in here, I'm not sure where it would fit best. But kind of listing potential things that people would be willing to do and have dark sky presentations as one of them. So grounds maintenance or things like that, if people would be willing to volunteer for that, are these anonymous?
What?
The surveys,
David,
if they're anonymous, it doesn't make, well, it kind of makes some sense to have the question, but you wouldn't be able to reach out to the people who said that they would be willing to do stuff. So,
maybe have a separate sheet.
Well, and if you look at section J, on the survey that we're working through. That may fit under a section similar to that. Let your voice be heard or how to get involved.
Yeah. So do we want to keep D4 in some form or not?
it might be useful, my opinion on it is, it may be useful information. I don't think it's a critical question to have. It's,
It's a dark sky ordinance, if you can. As Ben Franklin would say.
There's other ways that, you know, the group that worked on the dark sky ordinance. I mean, we've already had some people volunteer. Dorje's mom did a presentation for us. It was great. We wanted to do another one. But we'll be putting out that information too. Something's coming up and. You know, there's other ways that we can ask for this because. It really should not be, you know, a huge burden for the town. I think the idea was that would be interested parties who were, you know, making these things happen. It wouldn't become another job for the town.
Mhm. Okay, I'm gonna call the question. How many of us think that we should delete D4 and D5?
Oh,
Well, if we keep D4, it should be reworded.
that's my thing on it. If we keep D4, let's expand upon it and get a little bit more information out of the question, more questions.
Make it a yes or no.
Marie?
D4, yeah, and let's get rid of D5, of course.
So I hear,
I
Yeah.
thought we did this last month.
well, we did,
D5,
we did D5, and then we had comments, right? Where Jocelyn was consulted about D4. Who would like to work on the rewording? Jamie's already started it.
I can do some more rewording with it as well.
Both will or?
Both of you will,
I just have something here, which
go ahead.
I read to you, our dark sky designation, which replaced our lighting ordinance, requires us to have informative learning presentations. Would you be interested in participating in a presentation as such?
That question, oh, go ahead.
Kind of long, but could be shortened.
Could be shortened, but the wording of that sounds just fine to me. I would be good at that.
Well, I didn't get it word for word. You wanna bring it
Daniel,
up?
Chair.
Okay, you'll bring it.
Okay. All in favor of accepting that wording? Say aye.
I,
Marie? Brian, aye. Maria, are you still there?
Yeah,
Did you hear Janie's wording of D4?
oh, I'm sorry, I just, changed ears. Didn't catch that.
I'll read it again. Our dark sky designation, which replaced our lighting ordinance, requires us to have informative learning presentations. Would you be interested in participating in a presentation? Needs to be a yes or no question.
Yeah, yeah, that's good enough.
My only thought on that is it doesn't have to be a presentation, you know, it could just be a gathering of some kind or somebody. Or find a related movie or something like that.
So what wording would you want?
Well,
I don't know, event, activity.
As far as I recall, what you said didn't necessarily say presenting, it was just kind of participating in.
Oh, okay,
So if it's participating in, then it's whether you're a presenter or attendee.
Participating in an event, related event.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's good, related event.
All right, we're ready to move past where we ended up. We're down to section E, community life. Let's look at this and do a yay or nay on each of these. E1, do you favor increasing the minimum rental period of 25 days, yes or no? Keep it or,
It's already at 30.
I would say we already did that, didn't we? Mhm.
Is there, you have in the state ordinances that you, the city have, or is that a, no,
I think
there's,
the definition, isn't it?
What?
short term
Of
versus
long-term rental.
yeah.
There may be something the state use, typically 30 days is a.
Yeah.
long-term
Yeah.
rental,
Yeah,
which is why 25 days really didn't make sense.
So do we need it anymore?
No, because we've already moved our ordinance to say 30 days.
Or should we delete it?
Yeah,
or do we put 30 days in a period of 30 days? Are there any who would extend or wish to extend beyond 30 days?
No.
Is anyone pushing?
but is that against state law?
Well, yeah,
Against state law, it's pretty.
in my,
It's fun.
It's standard. Yeah.
And some people may feel strongly that you should only be able to do your lease, but that really seems like overkill to me.
Yeah, it does.
as far as a non-leading question for this, if you ask me, I would get rid of the increasing and change it so that they can input whether they want it increased or decreased.
Do you favor maintaining the minimum rental period of 30 days?
Or instead of having a yes, no, do increase, maintain, or decrease. For me, increasing the minimum rental period only gives you one option for direction. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least a few residents who are interested in short term.
Really?
that's not popular.
You're right.
That's why we're doing the survey. Yeah, that's why we're doing the survey.
And to me, this is a very leading.
It is,
That's all.
it is.
It's,
So what change are you recommending?
I would recommend, do you favor changing the minimum rental period of 30 days? You would have no, and then you would have increase and decrease instead of yes.
So eliminate yes,
Mhm.
have no, and then what?
increase or decrease, and then maybe a blank behind it so that they can input a value.
Okay? Got it? Any further discussion on E1? E2, do you want the town to reconsider allowing commercial activity?
We might as well find out.
I would leave that question as is.
Thank you.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, we've been asking it for 30 years. Right? E3, the median age of gas line.
Nearly 60.
Yeah,
I think we went over that after the last, time we did it.
yeah, I do too.
So let's revisit the 60 value.
Okay, so we're gonna need to find out the stat there. But it goes on. Early residents of the town have aged and newer residents often arrive after completing their paid working life. Well, maybe or maybe not, I don't know. As people grow older, they may need services not usually required for younger people. How concerned are you about your ability to remain living in your home as you get older, or if you have a health challenge at any age?
You need it all about lead up to them, like, like. I mean, I think it said it all, in the median age of residents is this.
Yeah.
Do you really concerned about needing services?
Yeah,
You don't need to say all that other stuff.
yeah, that was the educational component of the person who wrote this.
You're such a youngster.
It's 63.5.
63.1?
Yeah.
Where did you get that?
It's from Data USA and Census Bureau.
For Campbell Mountain.
So in the past 5 years, our median age is almost 3.5 years. Means our population hasn't changed much.
So what about if we,
Over 60, you just said.
as, Jasmine is just brought up, getting rid of that information and maybe concerned are you about aging in place for the issues related to
Well, the
aging?
last sentence pretty well.
Yeah.
How concerned are you about your ability to remain living in your home as you get older? If you have a health challenge at any age?
Yeah, that whole sentence
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah,
Everything else is in that.
so after 63.5, we scratch.
You want to read the first sentence? in?
Yes, leave the first sentence and then it would scratch through everything to how concerned are you about your ability to remain living in your home as you get older, or if you have health challenge at any age, circle one.
I'm good with that for E3. I would argue that the 2, 3, the third sentence in there, we may want to staple on the front of E4. As people grow older, they may need services not usually required for younger people. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being little interest support and 5 being substantial interest support, do you think the town should? And then the options for
So
the
you're-
services that we're thinking about.
Yeah, with that.
Good, good. So you're suggesting taking that sentence from as people grow older, they may need services not usually required for younger people, moving it down to E4.
Correct.
Preface it that way.
And preface E4 with that sentence, and then remove everything that we talked about removing from E3.
We all good with that?
Yeah,
Good pickup. Thank you. And then the rest of E4 could stand? Is that what you're
I
suggesting?
think those seem reasonable.
They seem reasonable to me too.
Thank you.
The just-
Marie?
What, I am really getting confused here.
Okay,
So we're gonna leave the explore the cost, benefits, practicality, and likely usage, blah, blah. we're leaving that part in there. You got that as part A. And then there's
Yeah.
more on the other page.
Well, what Dorje was recommending is that we take the second sentence in E3, as people grow older, they may need services, and move it down as a preface to E4, the beginning of that scale.
That's the third sentence.
But
not the
other-
second.
But otherwise leave.
But I don't think that really addresses the issue. Because, you know, I think the aging in place thing is like what we're trying to get to in E3. That's a big issue in the whole country, and especially out here.
Yes, that's relating to the concern. E4 is the one relating to exploring cost, benefits, practicality, those types of things, the services that the town would provide. Or look into.
But that first one is a regular transportation service. That's not the only thing about aging in place.
There's 4 things there.
There's 4 things there.
And the visiting nurse, okay, so you're just gonna leave all those the same and everybody's gonna have to do those separately?
Yes,
Yes.
and if there's something
Okay.
else, if there's something else that we need to include, we could bring that up at this point. If there's something in aging in place,
What's the practicality of getting some of these service coming back? It's, I mean, you know, to go to
It's
that.
not practical. One thing I could be in the practical is the question about ADU.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Or IAD.
Yeah, which we already allow, but
Right.
it's a practical question because that is one way to address aging in place.
Yeah,
is being able to have your mother-in-law apartment where your kid lives and takes care of you.
right.
And I mean, that was just the question that I had. Cause some of these things, you can ask I guess I made this comment last month. And so there's things that we can and can't do, and
Yeah.
to put them on the survey. You know, and, you know. But yeah, exactly. People get their hopes up that they could get something like this, and when it's just, you know. It's hard to maintain an ambulance service. We have to call them, yeah.
Yeah, we don't even have people to staff it.
Yeah, and so, you know, some of the other things may be even harder to get, you know.
Well, as one who is considering aging in place, I would put ADUs up top.
Yeah.
Because it is a consideration of mine.
Something with these, I mean. You're right, it might still give people false hope, but it does really only say explore on the beginning of these, so it would just be looking into it. It may be completely economically feasible.
Yeah.
But do we even want to look into it, is the question. That's kind of-
Well, Meals on Wheels is never gonna happen.
What was that?
Meals on Wheels will do that.
I don't, do we even have a Meals on Wheels anymore?
We don't have here.
Pardon?
Meals on Wheels don't come out here,
Yeah, it's too far. I mean, it's,
but there's
I would-
a program, early entry where they can outfit people with walkers and wheelchairs and those things that you sit on in the shower, and it talks here about explore options for a visiting nurse to come in to Castle Valley on a regular basis, but I think that early entry person would probably be receptive to come into Castle Valley sometimes for the seniors.
And people may not know this, but Jocelyn has been piling things, you know, like wheelchairs and crutches and things that people might need to borrow here at the town hall.
Oh,
No, didn't know it.
Somebody grabbed a walker today.
Maybe we should let people know, because you're doing it here. The fire department's doing it, and we got a shed in back of the church where they're doing it. And I've got a shed and I'm doing it.
Well, maybe we need to have more information.
Yes. Sounds like it, 'cause
We have 5 places that are doing that, we've already got it covered.
We could put that on the question, explore having a central location where people can exchange or deposit or borrow medical equipment or something, I mean, not sanitary medical equipment, but
Oh, you had some here. If people have a visiting, I mean, older than us even, visitors that may need that and can't travel with it, that's good to
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I don't think it would be a bad idea to add a sub question. That maybe has a little expose saying like the town keeps some donated wheelchair, etc. stuff. Would you be in favor of making them more centralized, or would you be willing to donate to it, I guess? Don't know how exactly I would word that.
So where are you gonna store it?
Man, that's another question. I mean, we do
Stuff
have,
is bulky.
Well, it sounds to me like if it's already happening in other places than just the town, we need to work with the church and with the other people who are doing it and kind of get that figured out together. So we can be more helpful.
then maybe you don't do it as a central location, you just do it as like a central information where.
Yeah.
We can keep track of what people have and then,
Right, and if someone called us, then we could say, oh, Dar has that, or.
Yeah.
Or that's at the church, who's here, here's who you call.
We really don't need C, do we? Explore the provisions of Meals on Wheels service to Castle Valley residents through the Moab Grand Center, Senior Center. You know,
Yeah,
they're
we
both.
should take that out.
I don't think they're gonna do it.
if there's no
The budget's
possibility.
being slashed, so,
Yeah,
so get rid of C.
If we,
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
yeah, I think if it's very, very unlikely and we're aware of that, then it should just be removed.
yeah.
Okay, so C
In
is on.
people's hopes of.
So could D be amended to include ADUs?
I was
think
thinking
so.
that's where it would make sense to
Yeah.
have that worded in different fashion. I mean, we already allow for the tag with a bit of a process and it seems more. It seems more intrusive than it needs to be for someone who's just aging.
Well, and I might bring up here, you read, getting a new subdivision ordinance, I mean. Saying senior housing options, if that gives you an idea of a house where many people will live together. I don't know, would that even be allowed under those new, maybe that,
The state.
Totally.
I'm not gonna, don't be quoting me on that, but I think we have to allow for some types of group homes per state law.
Hmm.
So you check into that before you word it in a way that it makes you think that you can't.
And we'll be finding that information out on Monday,
Are you?
I think.
well,
About
that,
ADU.
does the subdivision unit have anything to say?
Subdivision.
about Senior housing.
No, this is about, no, it doesn't,
Okay,
not
yeah.
about senior housing.
if there's anything from the state.
No, it's
that's
not
that.
one and two
You're
family.
revising it?
Mhm.
You're revising the subdivision ordinance?
No,
Per
we're just,
state, yeah, per state mandate.
Yeah.
Oh,
We have,
That's
it's
coming up
actually
on-
a contractor who's revising it for us.
yeah, it'll be coming to the point after this Monday meeting.
We're meeting to, recommend sending it to you, basically.
So on Thursday, I believe we'll be looking at it this upcoming Thursday.
Yes,
I'll scratch C,
scratch C,
add ADU to D,
correct. And possibly room.
and E5.
Yeah, with PP5 part of it. Gorge,
Something that might fit under E4, I don't know if that's the correct location for it. Since this last one, we no longer have a local ambulance and or EMT team. We may want to have something in there about that. Also, if we can get a question in there about if people are willing to either get trained or are trained and are willing to do EMT services. because I believe it's just a threshold, right? They need a certain amount of people available out here to do it.
They also have to be certain certifications, and having it under the fire department is a kind of weird situation, and I don't know, that's complicated and it's not under the town's jurisdiction. So,
Okay.
Depending on your type of service, you also need a, they can sponsor you. They're not willing to do that very often.
So we best leave that off.
Let's leave that off.
E6,
Seems like a good idea to me,
okay, leave E6,
yeah.
okay. Do we have any grant writers in town? Well,
no one's a grant administrator.
But the nonprofit,
Writer. Okay, good.
Do they know what they're doing?
I kind of think that on the last survey, that there was a positive response to that.
There was.
So there's already, sort of permission from residents to pursue that.
Well, let's stimulate.
Yeah,
their-
72%.
Did anything with that. So,
Well, so being a nonprofit is actually quite an involved process.
Yeah.
And it's not. That they have to show some, like, initiative.
Yeah,
Have to do, like,
yeah,
if we're doing a nonprofit to help us with the work we're doing, they're gonna have, someone else is gonna need to initiate.
so you think it ought to be rewritten?
Maybe.
The second part of it, do you favor the town encouraging the creation of a nonprofit organization?
because this is not saying that the town will create a nonprofit organization.
It just says we'll encourage it. The creation of a nonprofit.
So what does that look?
Yeah, that's the question.
They're kind of a complicated thing too, right? Because there's only certain things that nonprofits apply for. There's certain things you have to be a municipality to apply. It's not like your little nonprofit here on the side is gonna be able to go after a CDBG grant to do a major infrastructure project. I mean, we're gonna have to still do some of those things that a nonprofit, I don't know, like they would have other things available to them.
Like Meals on Wheels would be something nonprofit could do.
Well, or something like that, yeah.
That's something that. I wrote grants over the years and I'm volunteering for this stuff. Like you said, it's management, it's the hard part, right? It's the writing it is easy. There's nonprofit type grants, which are things like Meals on Wheels. Even dark skies type stuff, you can do, or bird, like if you had a bird group or something like that. But there's municipalities, you know,
The fluff stuff.
the flow stuff, not your operational things over the years.
Do we have a qualified grant writer living in Castle Valley?
Yeah. And everyone's a writer out here. We have novelists, we have. You mean it does it for a living?
I'll be
Who?
married.
Oh, probably Marion Opie.
I mean, Jocelyn writes grants.
Jocelyn.
She has enough on her plate.
So
I don't,
where are we with the E6?
I don't see an issue with removing E6. If we have at least half of an answer and it's not something we're likely, because I don't even know how we would encourage the creation of a nonprofit.
I don't either.
Probably get feedback from the last survey, so we know that people would, they're not opposed to it if we went that, try to do that.
I'm in favor of removing it.
I vote to remove as well.
Marie?
Yeah, well, maybe we could get the, assisted living ferry to come by or something.
This is daunting.
Okay. I hear that we are scratching E6.
Yeah, it can go.
Done. We're all the way down to section F, government.
I like that one.
F1 is good.
Mhm.
Marie, F1 is good.
Oh, yeah, how do you receive news?
Yeah.
Yeah, gossip, yeah.
Word of mouth.
And it's bad. How about F2?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And the F2,
In parentheses, some are under that or something.
okay. Got it. Parenthetically at the website.
And you may also want to preface it with, if you use the town website, because that might also give you use, well. You already get it through F1, but. You wouldn't want to answer that question if you don't use the website at all.
Well, here, but we're giving you the website.
Go look at it. How it works.
So Dorothy, what are you suggesting?
I was just gonna do if you use the town website. And then maybe add the actual website in there.
Well, you can tell you people don't use the website by not circled. More people not circled it by 10%.
Well,
What's wrong with the way it is, you know? How do you get your news? The website, yes or no, or, you know?
do you find the town website easy to use with useful information?
Yes or no?
It's essentially a no question, so no answer if you don't use the town website. You could add an NA.
Well, if you say no, you imply that you used it, but you didn't like it.
Yeah,
Okay, so we could add an NA to it, but keep it. Delete it
yep,
and add parenthetically.
Keep it the way it is.
But add parenthetically the website. So,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
An opportunity to question.
right, exactly. F2A, please suggest changes, keep it.
yep.
And
I mean, I thought this section was pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
It kind of
F3.
covers everything.
it does, thank you, Marie. F3,
My only question was on the Castle Valley community page. Is there, I know that you have to be invited and everything, but is there a way to start a group that's a little bit more open that people can just go to?
Anyway,
Because a lot of people didn't even know about it.
Not government related.
it's not a government
The
site.
town does not run the community page, that's run by a resident, and another resident wants to create a different page that's more open, that's.
No, I mean, why can't the town towns have community Facebook pages, don't they? I mean, everybody's got a Facebook page. The town could have one just as easy.
Like Facebook isn't our job.
The town should not be responsible for managing the community Facebook group. Cause that's
Well, you
large
still have
undertaking.
the other one, for people that want to be more exclusive. But if you want to put like notices and things about what's happening and everything, is so much more people are going to go to Facebook than they are to the website as a rule.
Well, maybe on the website, put the information that if you're interested in the Facebook page, here's the deal.
A link to it. Well, and we could, I guess, post more of the things on our actual Castle Valley page. And then people could go and find it there without having to belong to a group at all.
Well, isn't the Castle Valley Facebook page part of the Castle Valley group?
no.
No. No, it's an actual page that Jocelyn created just for the town.
Marie,
Sometimes she uses it to post things on the,
Okay.
the community page.
I don't think.
are you able to hear, Marie, what Mayor Duncan is saying?
I think so.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm way in the back, sorry, Marie.
Do you want to add the Castle Valley Facebook page as one of the options?
It's-
A nine option thing?
We could-
Castle Valley Community Page H.
Yeah, but that's the informal one.
That's the private one.
The town's Facebook page.
And Marie, you don't have to wait for an invitation, you just let somebody, you just. I think Colleen is the moderator now, so you just let her know you want to be on it.
Oh, I'm on it. I'm just saying that, there would be more people on it, if more people knew about it. And if you're gonna do it for the public, you have to make it open. You know, and every town and all, you know, fire department and police department, they all have Facebook pages. So Castle Valley would just have a Facebook pages that would basically just cut and paste a lot of what goes on the website and just put it on there, and people will be more likely to find it, and they can comment. Which you can on the website right now. It's just a one-way thing.
Well, our current website now has these little news items and things, you know, about events, but it's not the same as this community page on Facebook. It's more, you know, informal. Most of it doesn't have anything to do with town government or town issues.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is.
Right, it's people just looking for things or talking about things. Yeah, I mean, it's more like neighbor to neighbor. You know, there is such a thing as a neighbor to neighbor, or whatever that is on Facebook.
Not really
Well, I'm
engaged.
just saying that if you had a Facebook page that had a lot of the information that is on the website, that people never think to go to the website, and they're going through their Facebook, and if they sign up for that Facebook or whatever, the notifications will come, and then they can put statements and questions on the Facebook page, but they don't on the website, right? And it's kind of a one-way website.
Adding work.
It's- My argument is that it's a lot of work for an already taxed team. I don't see an issue with using the page that we have to kind of put out information when it needs to get put out. I would highly argue against opening it for comment there, but provide contact information so people can email or call whoever they need to, rather than posting it on the Facebook page.
could we put in F1 rather than other Facebook page? Just so that there's an awareness that there is one.
I would still leave the other, but I would add the Castle Valley Facebook page as one of the options.
So Jay or.
That would be I and J would be other.
Yeah, I would have other at the end.
Okay. That's it, quiet.
One of the reasons I hear why a lot of people don't use the Castle Valley informal community page is because it's Facebook and some people don't want to go on Facebook. So.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to.
Oh, maybe we could go on TikTok, then that's.
Yeah.
And Facebook is the old people's thing now. I thought everybody would want it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it
Warm
doesn't,
it up to China.
it doesn't match too well with the 63.5 change.
That's the social media rather than Facebook,
Right, right.
social media.
Okay, let's move on to, are we okay, F3?
Are you on the town email list? Yeah, I think that's good.
F4?
So what is the other?
F4, remove the roads committee, as that is
Yeah.
no longer existing.
Thank you.
What about the emergency? Part of that, I have.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
hazard mitigation.
There's no longer really-
We do hazard mitigation, the emergency operations planning is employees.
It's pretty set people.
Yeah.
But we do have now the RDAC, that's the right acronym, the rapid disaster assessment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people who volunteer to do it.
So what is that acronym?
Oh,
RDAP,
R,
RDA,
RD,
RDAP,
Yeah.
okay.
so do we put that,
Rapid Disaster Assessment Program. If I recall correctly, so we may want to check that.
so do we put that in the place of, that we eliminated roads committee?
Yeah,
Sure.
Thank you.
And what is it called?
Rapid disaster assessment.
Oh,
Is it P or T?
P,
it's P, it's a program, but.
Robert Delta Alpha
Peanut.
Percy. Don't recall my military. Peanut, there you go.
Okay, F5,
Okay.
Sorry, really?
Remember the property tax rate was raised in 2016.
well, we also need to change the amount, right?
You know, I don't know, like, we're gonna raise the rate.
Hmm.
You need to ask, you were gonna ask people at a public hearing if they're okay with it, and then we're gonna have to do it.
Oh,
So I'm not
for
sure.
the town property tax,
We have a town property tax,
okay,
we've had it for, ever since the town incorporated.
yeah, okay.
And if, unless I'm mistaken, the town property taxes has still not been raised since 2016.
16 it says here,
That's correct,
That's
and that's still correct?
yeah.
So,
But
Mayor,
it's not that same amount right now. And you're gonna have to put the sentence if you're gonna use it again.
absolutely. Do you see it as useful to have this information going out to the public, that they're aware?
Yeah, I think it is a good idea to at least.
Like, people are. What's necessary.
Or you can get rid of everything except the last thing. Last sentence. The rest of it could be done.
Do you favor raising property tax? Oh, yeah, everybody's in favor of that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think it is kind of useful information to have at the front, because I don't think most people realize how limited the town's budget is. And the fact that we have not done anything with taxes since 2016.
Right.
Didn't even know that we run a road department. Kind of.
The whole thing got way up since 2016, about changing the income.
Not that much for us.
It evens it out, so like, the home values go up, your property tax might go down, because it.
So would they have to
evens it
stay
out.
the same, the operating?
Unless you ask for an increase, the
So,
rate increase, and then you, and
Is that 16% still correct?
I don't know. It, you gotta,
We should
we have
check
to
that.
look into that.
so with whom should we check to?
Then you could probably look at your tax notice and see what percentage your portion to the town is compared to your portion to the rest of the county and library and school district and everybody else. That might give you some idea. Is everybody the same percent? I doubt it, like, I don't know.
Hey, Jasmine,
Yeah,
do you know who sets that 16%?
That's not.
Is that
that's
set by the county or the state or who
no,
made
It-
that number up?
To cover the budget.
The 15% was an example that someone used in the last survey to explain that even though you're paying a whole bunch of taxes, only 15% of what you're paying goes to the town.
Right.
That was an
Right,
example.
so who,
The tax rate is something that we like either accept that, it comes out at. Maybe the county sends it to us. And we either accept it or we ask for an increase, which has to go through truth and taxation. So if we want an increase, we have to go through that process. Way in advance of the
Yeah.
end of the fiscal year.
well, that seems like a no-brainer now that they, raise the taxes so much on us.
But I think what Marie is asking, the town of Castle Valley sets its tax rate itself, right?
Yeah, we adopt the tax rate.
So
Yeah,
the county has their tax rate, Castle Valley has its tax rate. So.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Murray. Thank you, Jasmine. So who would like to work on finding these amounts?
Well, one question I have is, do we even need exact amounts, or could we just state a small portion of your total county property taxes?
I would prefer to refine it a little bit, so that there's a,
Small budget and put what it is currently for 2024.
yeah,
Or
Yeah, I
Well,
was shocked.
is it going to be the same for everyone? That's the other question.
I don't know, maybe a few of us could look at our notices and compare.
yeah. Because it does have the qualifier about before that.
Approximately, yeah,
Yeah.
about.
yeah.
So if it's a wider range, we could even just say less than a certain percentage that would cover everything,
Less than 20%.
for sure.
would probably cover.
Okay,
So that's as an option. We can see if we can find more exact value, but I can't guarantee that that would be the same for everyone or anything like that.
so I have less than 20% or a specific percentage, if we could find it.
And
Okay,
is everyone going to look at their tax bill and do that calculation? Because it says.
We
town
don't
of
have
Castle
our
Valley
tax
tax.
numbers now.
Well, we have the preliminary, everyone has the preliminary. That's all we
Yeah.
look at. It's not final set. We don't have been granted an appeal yet.
It tells what you paid last year.
Yeah, and it tells the proposed amount you're gonna pay this
Does it have the breakdown of where it goes though? Can't recall.
yeah, it
It
does.
was town of Castle Valley.
Okay, so we can all look at that and determine. Okay, please.
I think F7 reads fine. And F6 reads just fine.
Okay, keeping F6 at 7, time check, we are. At, oh, it's
Still 15%.
it's 10 minutes before.
I just noticed that too.
Somebody needs to change the battery.
They like saying.
It's
7:48 right now.
Just FYI, it's probably 15% now. instead of 16.
Okay.
I just did the quick numbers on
your bill.
our bill. Yeah.
Thank you. Those phones are pretty handy, aren't
I'm looking up everything that's being said.
He's a fact check guy.
Corey's wife just sent me pictures of baby just hatched chickens, so that's probably why.
Oh, my God. They're surrounded by cuteness. Okay, we are down to fire and fire protection. Now, this is one of those areas where we did get some feedback that we needed to be looking at. A lack of fire protection around the number of residents. Fire department offers free fire-wise assessments. And about 40 property owners have taken advantage of the service. Others have done fire or protection without an assessment. But many properties, especially part-time residents, have not. fire-wise standard, how can the town encourage and enforce fire-wise standards for all property owners? The second part is, relatively few people in town volunteer for town government, fire department, etc. An active recruitment effort is needed to bring more people into the mix. Do those fit in what we have here with fire and fire protection?
I think these are all worthy questions.
I do too. And what I just read may fit under E. About recruitment, since it is all volunteer. You who are on the fire, what do you think?
Sorry, I'm like,
Yeah, I understand.
what's the town asking us for?
Right.
Does it relate to insurance rates and things like that? That people pay?
Is it in
Well,
our,
our rating, yeah,
I mean, your
like
town rating,
9B or something, and
Yeah.
yeah.
that would be the only, town.
Well, we're two different entities, so.
Yeah.
in our general plan
Yeah.
update, number 6, fire protection and emergency preparedness?
uh-huh.
So maybe that's like 10 here.
Okay, well. I mean, just this E sounds like. I don't know, did the fire district ask us to ask people this question?
I think that question came from Bill.
Probably,
Is that not appropriate?
I don't know, it's just. It seems like something the fire department should be asking people.
I mean, I think it would be logical to have a question, are you willing to help with the fire department or something like that? With a number of these things where we're asking if people are willing to help, we might want to put together some kind of form or something on the website or somewhere external from this. Where it's like, we could reference to it in this and say, if you are interested in helping out the town or whatever, fill out this form and we can like have groundskeeper, fire, all that stuff in there, and people can just check a bunch of boxes and say, I'm interested in doing this, this, and this, and not this, this, and this.
And actually put their name on it where they can't put their name on the
If
survey,
this is anonymous, then it doesn't make sense.
a separate piece of paper that they can turn into.
Or do it as an electronic form, because that
Right.
can absolutely be electronic and you
Yeah.
don't have to worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
With that, we may want to add the note for wherever you find that or whatever to all the other ones that ask if you're willing to help with them.
so it may be an appendix section or it may be electronic.
I would do it electronic, I would do it separate, because in all likelihood, it's gonna be less than 20% of your respondents who are even interested in doing anything. Or that's my guess. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong.
What about if we amend the section J where it says let your voice be heard and / get involved
You,
and append it there?
I wouldn't append it to this because I think unless I'm mistaken, we have to be unanimous. These are unanimous.
It's after you're not put your name in one.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we want to contact the people who are interested in doing something. Because the question here would just be to see how many people are interested in helping out the town.
Right.
And if they actually want to help out the town, do it as a separate form, where they put their name, contact information, and what roles they would be willing to.
Right.
Please fill out the link and then give them that.
Yeah, so you could, like, you would just put in parentheses or something under each of these, see CastleValleyUtah.com forms blank.
Thank you.
We've still got that mailbox stuff under the capital improvement that didn't receive very much interest at all.
No, we're there now.
Well, how do we feel about infrastructure question H1? George,
Don't look at me.
you're up.
Have to be done now.
No, it does have to be done. It's probably not going to be the most usual.
Okay, look at that and see what you can suggest, okay?
What I would suggest, well,
Put that on hold for a bit. You look at it.
no, I don't think there's anything.
It's general enough.
The only thing that you might consider changing is putting a time frame on it, because right now we're not in a very good position, but that's not the standard that we're trying to be at.
Okay, I'm gonna note that.
On H1A, that gives a whole lot of lines.
There sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Okay.
we still on G?
We finished, didn't we?
Yes. Finish, Street. Okay, have something to add.
Did you have something that you wanted to add, or are you okay with G?
No, GC, would you support a town ordinance that required annual removal of these fuels? My first question when I saw that was like, how? I mean, if you've got 5 acres, you're gonna go out there and cut it all down and turn it into, sod, or, you know, what are we talking here?
To see if they support it.
So, I mean, granted, I'm kind of involved in the system and I understand a little bit more what it's about. I don't know how I would or clarify it with the language here, but my understanding of it is more like if people are cutting a bunch of brush and just piling it on their lot and then leaving it and letting it pile up for 10 years, should the town have some oversight over that? It's
To include.
That's
things
not what that says.
like weeds and your
Oh,
other
okay.
weeds and your dead stuff and your highly flammable sheet grass.
That's only piece of the structure or the whole property is mentioned?
Yeah, it might be worded differently, but there are places who do this. And if you don't do it, they come in and do it and build your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not enforceable in Castle.
So.
I mean, you could do the firewise part, which is around your structure, which is
Encouraged, but
Right.
yeah.
if we keep, well, I like the idea of encouragement. If we do keep this question, I would argue for a rephrasing of, potentially adding excess somewhere in there. I don't know how exactly you would define that. I don't even know if you can.
It would have to be defined in the ordinance.
In the
that
ordinance.
talks.
But just saying annual removal of fuels, I can see how one might think that that would require everything to be removed, which is not really the goal. It's more just like heavy fuel buildup or something like that, that we to.
So where do we stand on this? Do we want to keep C or remove it?
Or modify it?
I'm sorry, Marie, what?
Modify it?
And how would you do that?
Do you have a suggestion
I don't know,
about?
he was just talking about the excess buildup or piles or,
I would just add Would you support a town ordinance that required
Removal of excess fuel?
removal of excess fuels? Or annual removal of excess fuels? Instead
No,
of,
that's the definition of excess, so
Yeah, the worst fires we've had in here was just when those grass fires that wiped out structures and everything.
Yeah.
I think you should just take it out. It's just very inflammatory, pardon the pun.
Okay, at this late hour, that was good. I'll have what she's having. All in favor of removing C?
I,
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, stricken. Good, it's getting lighter.
moving on.
So we did H1, we did H2, correct? Or H1A rather?
H1A, I would remove the if dissatisfied and just leave it as, do you have any suggestions for improvement?
I think you're correct.
Yeah.
Because then even
Yeah.
if you like what's going on, you can still say something to say.
Yep. Okay,
How far can we go?
well, we're almost there. Capital improvement projects,
Aren't there a number of them already stated because
Well, that's the thing, right now, we're going into the survey at a time where we're addressing major infrastructure issues.
So,
That we have to prioritize, and no one can be able to do that.
yeah,
for us. Like, we're gonna do what we need to do to. keep
that's,
our-
that's kind of what I was thinking.
the circumstances of like the capital improvements project and the road stuff is just weird timing.
Yeah. we're
That's what it comes to.
sure.
Well, that's not even our jurisdiction.
It's BLM land and it's leased, and yeah, it's,
It's a
yeah.
weird situation.
And it didn't receive a high amount of
no.
support this time of the round. So I would at least remove that.
Remove one.
D,
Remove, well, don't remove D, remove the improvement to the mailbox areas and make suggest other improvements as D.
Yeah,
Okay,
Because right now, if you're not paying attention, the suggest other improvements is relating to the mailbox area, which is.
What are you suggesting?
just, please
So essentially just remove this part
have a
and
suggestion.
just have it as suggest other improvements.
Oh, that
D,
whole-
suggest other improvements. blank.
Okay, okay, great.
got it? Anything else in section I?
I'm good with that modification.
I like section I with that modification as well.
Marie?
So we're just saying, are you satisfied or not satisfied? That's it. And then we're taking all the rest of the stuff out about the roads and all that. That's good.
Okay. Section J,
I like it the way it is.
And you're wrong when you put the last one other.
exactly. We got a lot of good feedback last time, actually, with this.
Let your voice be heard.
Mhm.
There's some of those suggestions from some of the input we got. Water conservation needs to be considered. You know, if that would fit here or.
maybe this is someone who doesn't know too much about our water situation.
Because we do have A, water quality, we do have C, protection of aquifer.
We have a lot going on in the way of water management.
Yeah.
So will this allow for that? Then, as it's written?
A lot of things in here probably. Help address that.
Thank you. How about J2?
I like it.
I like it too.
I think if Jeff were here, he might speak to E. As you know.
Missed the bus.
Well, I mean, is this something you've changed in other sections? Is this, this is something we have, so maybe we reword that, or is it,
We're prioritizing.
right,
How about agricultural uses?
so make it more broad than that.
Okay, agriculture is on P.
Might want to add emergency man, I mean, you got the evacuation plan, policies and plans, but there's emergency. preparedness and that's a mitigation.
I might almost argue for road improvements as well. Have road maintenance and road improvements. Because it's technically separate.
So add improvements or put it separate?
Replace G with road improvements and then have
Other,
But what about,
H as other.
well, we had another suggestion too, with the emergency.
It's covered under.
Emergency preparedness.
Okay.
Covered.
A,
H is up.
Yes.
Okay, last page. Please share any additional concerns or suggestions to help address any issues you are interested in. Any change to that or good?
I like it.
Good. Thank you. Georgia,
Good.
great.
Where are we?
J3,
J3,
J3. For some reason mine doesn't have that.
what? Sorry, we missed
Doesn't have
that.
headings on it. So,
Please share any additional concerns or suggestions to help address any issues that you indicated in J1
and J2.
and J2 above as having high priority. Good?
whatever.
Okay.
We could remove the high priority, so even if it's not a high priority, they may still have suggestions for something.
Okay,
Yeah.
you okay with that, Jay?
I'm good with it.
Remove having, as having a high priority. J4, what do you like best about life in Castle Valley?
I like it the way it is. I mean, the life here, but I mean the question. Or the other.
Okay with J4?
Yep.
J5, what do you like least about living in Castle Valley?
We might as well hear
Yeah, keep it.
J6, please tell us about your vision for the valley. What would you like to have stay the same? What would you like to have change?
it. They can
Keep it.
elaborate. Good.
The difference between the vision and getting this one.
Yeah,
Ooh, and a whole page for additional comments.
yeah, and we got,
Definitely leave that.
okay. Time is it?
Woo-hoo. Must be 8.
8:09.
10 minutes over.
Uh-oh. At least we got her done.
I'll accept the final motion.
I move we adjourn.
I'll
Say
second
no.
that.
Seconded, all in favor? Vote with your feet.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your work. Thank you for all who contributed here. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned at